So the abundance deep dive, day 3, and like the last couple of days, Steve starts talking about stuff that isn't really resonating with me, and it's like, okay, where exactly are you going with this? So what it initially started off with and what I would label it as isn't exactly what I got out of it. So in the end, eventually it came down to something that my students and people ask me all the time, which is, how do I come up with so many ideas? Like, where do all the ideas come from? How is it that I'm so creative? And I never really thought anything about it because it just is for me. Like, I don't have to really worry about it. I just do my thing and I go with it. So it wasn't until Steve was kind of describing for people that don't have that inspiration hit them, that have never felt that, how could they get it? And there are parts that he described that I align with, and that is exactly how it works for me. And then there's parts that I don't quite align with, that I do it a little bit differently. So how it works for me is I'll just be going around doing my life, living life, and, minding my own business kind of thing. And then an idea hits me, kind of like getting struck by lightning. It just all of a sudden is like, the little light bulb emoji, imagine that kind of going off above my head. And one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to take action on it immediately, or I'm not. And with whatever good intention that I have, and if I'm, bogged down with something else, or it is just not in my schedule, it's not in my realm of possibility at that moment to take action, I can do my best to document it and kind of like frame that and capture it so that I can come back to that inspiration. But I would say 99 times out of 100, if it's gone, it's gone. And that might be discouraging for people, but here is the encouraging part, that when it does hit, I have learned that it's a lot easier to drop everything that I'm doing, like everything. It doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of sleeping, it doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of doing something else. And maybe you've been with me when I've had this, like, oh my God, I need to write it down and I need to just see it through. It becomes a little bit of an obsession. So whatever the idea happens to be, I have to take action on it. If I need to buy some supplies to see this through, if I need to do a little bit of brainstorming or a little bit of research and then just dive in, that's what I do. I don't let it go. It's like a dog with a bone, and just I have to keep doing it until it's done. And I find in those moments when I'm relentless, like I am going to see this through no matter what. If it kills me, pretty sure it's not going to kill me, but I have to finish it. Those end up being the best ideas. It ends up being the most beautiful art. It ends up being the stuff that leads to other and bigger things. Like abstract came from that. My mosaics came from that. Anything that was kind of epic. The new Tree of Life pieces actually came from that. And sometimes it sparks with, I wonder what I can create. I wonder what I can do with all of this stuff that I have. I wonder, what people are after. And then it's kind of like, like I said, a bolt of lightning, somebody kind of zapping me, and it's just energy. It's pure energy. It feels like fireworks are going off within me. It feels like I have a burst of excitement, and there's like this fire that's brewing inside me that I cannot let it go. I can do my best if I'm not in a creative state or something else is coming up, like I'm driving or I'm in the middle of something else. I can write it down. But like I said before, sometimes I go back and I look at what I've written. I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about? It looks like a crazy person doodled this. It looks like I was spouting nonsense because it doesn't make sense. I didn't see that intuition, and I didn't follow that path. What ends up happening when I do, it's kind of like catching a bullet train. It slowly passes by me, and it's an instant decision. Do I jump on and do I ride it wherever it's going to take me? Or do I say, you know what, I'll catch the next one? And you can hope that the next one is going to be as good, or you can hope that it's going to have as much inspiration, but that's where the motivation comes from. That's where the energy comes from. That's where the determination comes from. It's not from within me. It just is. It shows up and I say yes, and then I go with it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it seems like I'm a crazy person. And I stopped asking people what they thought. I stopped asking people, for advice or running it by someone to see if it was a good idea or if they had any input, because I realized along the way, the more I just lean into that intuition and lean into whatever this is that's happening, the answers show up. Like, if I ask a question of, okay, well, where am I going to get the supplies and where am I going to get the knowledge to learn how to do this? Boom, the next thing just shows up and it's effortless. So everything about it becomes effortless. I just say yes and ride the wave, and it's usually a lot of fun. It's usually exciting and energizing, and the motivation that comes from that, when it's completed, the sense of accomplishment, and then I can show people, look at what I created. Like, isn't this wild and crazy? And then people are like, oh my God, I love it. And it's not about doing it to get the admiration. It's doing it because it showed up. The universe gave me this gift. So I say yes, and I take it, and I run with it. And if I keep saying no, and this isn't a good time, or I don't have the money for this, or I don't have the knowledge for it, and, it's a little too scary, then it stops showing up, and then that's where I start to get stuck. So when those ideas spark, and you kind of have that, like, that brewing inside you, and you're like, this is really exciting, but I don't know where this is coming from, that's what it is. And you just say, okay, I'm just going to say yes, and let's go with it, and let's see what happens. So if you've never experienced this before, and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, this has never happened to me before, I really kind of feel bad for you, because this happens to me all the time. And there is a way to help cultivate that, to help try and invite that into your life. So Steve was mentioning a few things in his talk today in day 3, and I wrote some notes. So part of when that happens for me, and he confirmed this for him, it's not setting out the intention to make a bunch of money. I want the universe to bring me this amazing idea so I can make millions of dollars off of it. It doesn't usually show up that way. Sometimes there'll be like a spark of something else, and it can lead to that, but that's not what I'm talking about, where it's effortless and easy and fun and time just flies by and you're like, holy fuck, like, that was awesome, and I need more of that. And then more of it shows up, right? It's riding that wave, and it's just like easy breezy and being in a little happy little bubble. You can create that by having an intention that is just pure and almost selfless, where you're like, you know what am I supposed to do that's going to help serve other people? What is it that I'm really good at creating that I just need to express? What is it that this fire inside me that I just need to get it out and just kind of wait for it to show up? And sometimes, and Steve was talking about this, the first couple of ideas are kind of like the monkeys in the circus kind of roaming around and they start chattering. Sometimes that's not it, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's not the divine inspiration that I'm talking about. That's just chatter. But then something else will happen, and Steve calls it daydreaming. And I thought about this for me, and it's not necessarily like daydreaming, it's just my mind kind of wanders, and then all of a sudden it just goes down the rabbit hole, and then poof, there's this crazy idea. And it's a feeling for me. It resonates, and then all of a sudden this wave of energy and excitement is right behind it, and we're talking like instant. So I get the idea, and my mind starts to be like, and this and this and this and this and this, and then it's a little bit of fear, it's a little bit of holy shit, how am I going to do this? And then I ask those questions out loud, and the answers just start showing up. So having an intention that is not for your benefit, but how can I serve other people? How can I make this world a better place? What is it that I'm supposed to be channeling and sharing with people? Setting that kind of intention opens up the floodgates for this kind of spark of inspiration, and I find it works really well. Asking the universe to show you something that will blow your mind, and how can you turn around and share that with others? That opens up the doors as well. Steve is obviously a writer, and if you've read anything on his blog, there's over 1,000 blog posts, and you're welcome to check it out, stevepavlina.com. And he says when he needs a new topic to write about, he says, quote, to the universe, I would like a new idea for a song, for art, for whatever, that will really help someone. So he just sits in his kind of meditative state and says to the universe, I really need an idea, and kind of finishes a sentence with, so that I can help someone, so that I can serve. And figuring out what that feels like for you. It's kind of like forming an affirmation. I can only give you so many ideas. Sometimes you need to play around with what works for you. But sitting in that state of, what am I good at, and how can I translate that to helping others? Not for any kind of personal gain, just for the fun of doing it. Often, personal gain comes from it, and you can set that intention of, it would be great if I was rewarded for this work, but ultimately, it's about sharing. It's about helping other people, and by me creating art, that satisfies my soul. When I can do something and manifest this crazy idea, it shows up, I do a really crazy quick sketch of, could this even work? And then I launch into doing it. That part, that whole, from idea kind of birthing to finishing my project, that's what's amazing for me. I love that part. Anything else that comes from that is gravy. If I turn it into a class and it sells, that's awesome. If I end up selling the piece, that's awesome. If people end up loving it, that's awesome. And even if they don't, I had that really cool experience, and that for me is what life is about. So hopefully this helps you guys a little bit. I know that it's a little bit obscure, and I am really quite passionate about it because it is effortless for me. The more I do it, the more I lean into it, and the more that I have that experience, the more it just keeps showing up. So before I know, I've got like endless ideas, and that's where creativity is not a problem for me. My ideas are everywhere. And if you need an idea for something, if you're stuck in like, how do I do this? Call me, message me, be like, I need to make this and I have no idea how to do it. I can come up with ideas, no problem. That is just complete abundance to me. There's never a shortage, because the waves of inspiration like this happen to me all the time. It's not just for stained glass and art related projects either. It also happens when I'm writing, also happens when I'm shooting videos. Like, it just flows, and it is really and truly effortless. So I invite you to try it. If you have experienced that kind of synchronicity and that kind of flow, I would love to hear it. I would love for you guys to share it. So looking forward to seeing what tomorrow brings for day 4. And yeah, that's it for now.